Good afternoon. Today we're going to take a look at SAP Business One MRP process. MRP stands for Material Requirements Planning, and it's a core module within the SAP Business One solution, and a very powerful module at that. So to get started, let's jump into the inventory and let's look at a particular item. I'm going to bring up one of my apparel items here. It begins with SV. I don't remember the exact item name, so let's go out here and we'll bring it up from a lookup list. And let's go with our extra large safety vests. Okay, what I want to do is show you the planning parameters. Everything I show you here in the item master is really going to pertain to the material requirements planning or MRP process. So first off, is this item even visible to MRP? And you really have two options, yes or no. There may be some items that you don't want MRP to have anything to do with, and you can turn those items off to MRP right here. Now, if this item is visible to MRP, do we make it or do we buy it? If we make it, that means that I've got a bill of material for it, and I'm going to produce it with a production order. Now, I can still have items that I make, but I can also buy those items too. All I have to do is flip the procurement method. Even though I have a bill of material for this item, I've now told my MRP system, I don't want to make it. Don't tell me to create a production order for this item. Tell me to create a purchase order instead. So that's a little bit of flexibility there. You can make buy items and buy make items. Now, there's a reason why I have 32 pieces here and a minimum of 32. The reason for that is if we go over to the purchasing tab, my purchase unit of measure, if I'm going to buy this item, I buy it in cases, but I stock it in eaches. So on my planning tab, I want to buy a full case count, right? So that way it won't tell me to buy 1.2 cases or 2.3 cases. It'll always tell me to buy this product in full case counts because my order multiple is 32. That's my case count. And my minimum order quantity is 32, which is the minimum for one case. So that's a little bit about how the planning tabs also come into play with if it's a buy item. Now down here, there's another field here, order interval. We run into this. This gets used sometimes if you've got a very active procurement department where you're buying every day, all day long. What the order interval does is I could say, all right, once a week. What MRP will do is MRP won't tell me to buy something today and then buy something tomorrow and then buy something on Monday. It'll save up that demand so I can buy for a week at a time and get economics of scale and maybe get quantity price breaks. So that's what the order interval does there. The lead time, this is what MRP uses to backward schedule what we need when we need it. Because I buy these vests from overseas, I've got a 30-day lead time. So these are the fields needed in the item master to run an MRP. So let's go ahead and let's select update here. Let's update our item. And now let's go in and let's run MRP. So let's start the MRP wizard. And we'll go to the next tab. Now, these are all of my planning scenarios. You could have as many planning scenarios as you want. Today, we'll look at the apparel scenario, but as you could expect, these planning scenarios allow you to set up different plans of your inventory. So your raw materials, they might be on one plan and your semi-finished goods might be on another plan. But in this case here, I have a plan called apparel, and that's going to include all my apparel items. I could also create a brand new scenario and just call it everything. And it's everything. It's every item I have, everything that MRP can look at, it'll look at. So again, you've got different options here on your scenarios. We'll go with my apparel scenario. All right, I want it to start today. And let's run it through the end of the year. Again, I could go all the way out to the end of next year, a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years out. You can go out as far as you want to go. I can also do a simulation, a what if scenario, where let's say that a huge customer of yours is thinking about dropping a giant order with you. Well, you could actually put that in as a quote and run a simulated MRP as if you actually got that order and see the effect on production, procurement, and AP. So the simulation is kind of neat. It gives you the ability to do some what if scenarios. Okay, we'll go to the next tab. These are all my apparel items. And I know what you're thinking. No, I didn't have to add each one in individually. This is where I went off to the far right here, and I used these buttons to bring in all my apparel items. So I just had to go to apparel and select OK. And that brings in all my apparel items, including, if we scroll down here, my safety vests. There they are. And there's my extra large safety vest. So these are the items I want MRP to look at. So as you can imagine, this is a huge feature, being able to streamline and tell the system exactly what you want MRP to look at. I remember the old days back in the late 80s, early 90s, we would, you'd run MRP, it would include everything. You'd start it on Friday and you would pray to God by Monday, MRP had completed. Thank goodness those days are over. Let's go to our next tab here. Now, this is asking us, Mike, what location do you want MRP to look at? So I've got a lot of inventory locations in my system. But what I'm going to do is we're going to go to my active one here, and we're going to run MRP against my main warehouse. Now, keep in mind, I could be including other warehouse and locations for MRP to look for existing inventory, demand, and incoming supply. But right now, we're going to run it for our one warehouse, my main inventory. Now, this has taken us to the heart of MRP. This is where the magic happens. This is all of the rules that come into play here. So MRP is asking us, do you want to include purchase requests, purchase quotes, purchase orders? Well, most people don't include purchase requests, purchase quotes, because I want to send out multiple quotes to multiple suppliers. I don't want all of those coming into MRP. Same thing with purchase requests. Purchase orders, yes. I want MRP. Don't tell me to create a purchase order for something if I already have a PO for it. So there are some basic things that you want to check here so you get a good, reasonable balance of supply and demand. So I need to select my demand items. My production orders create both supply and demand. Sales agreements, these are sales contracts. They create demand. Sales orders create demand. If you want to include quotes, you can. I typically don't. And then on the supply side, we've got production orders because, again, they create both supply and demand. We've got purchase contracts where we've got forecasts with our suppliers of when we're going to get certain goods. And then, of course, purchase orders. That creates supply. I'm also telling MRP to look at my minimum inventory levels, and I'm including an apparel forecast. Now let's drill down and let's look at that forecast. So here's my forecast. Now, the nice thing about this is I didn't have to generate this automatically. The system can generate that for you. And it does it through some artificial intelligence that comes with the software called intelligent forecasting. So over here, I can come out and I can grab all my apparel items. In this case here, I'm just going to grab food and beverage since I've got a lot of history there. I'm going to click forecast. Now, when I click forecast, it'll look at my sales history or my shipment history or my invoice history. And it's going to apply two algorithms to my data: triple exponential smoothing and linear regression damp trend seasonality adjust. These are two very popular forecasting algorithms. So we're going to go ahead and click the forecast button. what this is doing now, this is going back in time, and it's looking at all my food and beverage items. That's what I've chosen to see here. And based on that, it's giving me a forecast. It shows me what my actual sales were here. And then over here, it's giving me a forecast. Now, here's an example where I sold 18 of these products in 2209. And that's it. I haven't sold, then I sold 10 more and the following month, and then 0 from that point forward. So my forecast is saying, Mike, don't stock this item. You don't need it, right? So that's the beauty of this forecasting engine, is it'll go out and do a real good job of predicting what you're going to need when you're going to need it. And when I click save and close here, that then brings all that data into my forecast. And now I can go ahead and I can make adjustments here if I want to make changes. On my safety vest here, if we scroll back up, there we go. Oh, scroll back down. Let me find, here we go. On my large safety vest, what we're going to do is here in December, I'm going to put in 5,000. And we'll see how this comes through on the MRP process. So anyways, there's a forecast. It's optional whether you want to use forecast or not. You don't have to, in which case MRP would only be looking at actual demand and not including any anticipated or forecasted demand. So we're going to save our planning scenario, and I'm going to click the run button, and we're now running MRP. MRP has completed, and it found these 3 exceptions. It shows the safety vest that I've got today in stock. And as I scroll over, I can see I've got demand for 330, and it's or 320. That's coming from my forecasted demand. So that's anticipated demand. And I can continue to scroll all the way down to December. There we go. And here's those 10,000 pieces we need. And again, it's coming from a forecast, right? That's forecasted demand. We didn't actually put an order in. But you can see where we keyed that figure into our forecast, how it's gone into the MRP planning process and actually created demand. So we're going to finish MRP. And now we're going to go into the order recommendation report for our apparel scenario, which is the output of MRP. And here are those 3 exceptions. And if we sort this by release date, you can see that I need a purchase order for these extra large shirts. In this case here, I'm going to change the quantity and buy a full case. Here we go. That's done. On this one here, I need some black ink for my silk screening business. I need 55 liters. So we'll buy 55 liters of that item. And then I also need a purchase order for my large safety vest. Now, remember, we forecasted these for December 1st. So you see the backward scheduling. Because I have a dock to stock time frame, it backward schedules to the 28th of November, and then it goes back the 30-day lead time and says, okay, in order to get those 1,000 safety vests, you need to place that purchase order on October 8th. That'll get it to the time when you need it. Now, because I'm not going to place that PO early, we'll just release the purchase orders for our first 2 items there. So we'll select update. And now you can see 2 new purchase orders were created. And the reason it created 2 purchase orders instead of consolidating them into a single purchase order, I'll give you 3 seconds. Figure it out why. Any idea why this created 2 POs instead of consolidating them into 1 PO? Guys, go ahead and put your answers in the chat box. Nope. Okay, let me tell you why. The reason is because these were tied to different suppliers. This one comes from Far East Imports, and this one comes from Acme Associates. My ink comes from a different supplier that I get my apparel from. That's why I created 2 POs. If these items had come from the same supplier, it would have consolidated them into a single purchase order. Lastly, you have the ability then within your cockpits to include those inventory results if you choose to do that. So I can select any one of my inventory planning scenarios, and I can see all the buy items I need to process, the buy and make items, or just the make items I need to create work orders on. So that MRP data that I showed you a second ago, not only is it visible within the order recommendation report, but it also makes for some great dashboarding capabilities. What should I have purchased last month? What do I need to buy this month, next month, this quarter, next quarter, this entire year, right? So some really good core material requirements planning. And then after the fact, some equally good and easy to use reporting and business intelligence. You can kind of wrap around the whole MRP process. Okay, that's a quick look at MRP. I want to thank everybody for watching. And if you have questions, by all means, please post them into the chat box or hit us up after this meeting, and we'd love to answer these questions for you. Have a great afternoon.